Hi, Saurav. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to this short conversation on Linguaphile. What was the vision that you hold that made you start such a learning program for the students?
So, I actually conceived Linguaphile going back a few years ago when I realized that in the world, while there's a lot of opportunities that's available with children who can go to normal schools, they normally struggle, where there are children who've got a learning difficulty. In the West, you go back to the UK, US, Europe, normally the governments would actually have something available. So the schools would look after a lot of the children who've got learning difficulties, whether it's dyslexia, autism, ADHD, whatever it is. But if you were to look at it in the developing countries, there is still a lot of scope, and there is a lot of parents that we've spoken to who actually came and said, look, if we could have some sort of specialist support under one single roof, that would be awesome. So we spoke to a lot of parents and we asked them questions going back to what is it, what are the challenges that you're really finding, and what they actually came back and told us is, look, we are looking for specialist teachers who can actually teach our children, whether it is the international boards, whether it is the Indian boards. So they've been looking for a lot of that, the inputs that's available from an organization like this, which is why we thought, okay, if we could go and make this really happen for parents, that under one single roof, one solution, they can have something like this available. That's how we conceived it.
So, what do you mean by this one single roof concept?
So in Linguaphile, our idea is that we provide end-to-end solution, all the way starting from the initial assessments, which we start with talking to the parent, understanding what the child needs. Then we go through a complete psychological assessment for the child. Then we come up with an individualized education plan, which is very comprehensive. It looks after the whole background, the history of the child. It looks after what kind of studies that the child is currently doing, what are the opportunities that's out there, what are the resources that could benefit the child, as well as then we would be looking at, okay, what are the classes that's needed under one single roof. In one single solution, we provide the whole thing, whether you're going to do this as a homeschooling solution or whether you do this as an additional support, we completely look after.
So, this whole idea of Linguaphile stands on children with special educational needs. What are your plans for students with homeschooling without having any kind of learning difficulty? As a company, are you thinking to kind of explore in that segment also?
Absolutely. So we've had conversations with parents, especially if you look at the way the coronavirus has impacted the whole education sector in the world. We've had a lot of parents who've come over and asked us that question, whether we would be wanting to go into homeschooling. Doing that is absolutely a no-brainer for us to go and do that. But at this point in time, we have completely kept it to children with learning difficulties who are being homeschooled. But going forward in the future, if we get enough interest from parents, we would want to go into the homeschooling as well for children who don't have a specialist learning difficulty. So that's possible.
At Linguaphile, we aim to provide students with individualized education curriculum, which is mostly based on Tier 3, that is Wave 3 intervention process. When I say Wave 3 intervention process, that means that it is entirely based on one to one academic support on the choices of subject that we feel the child can really work upon. Well, the question that might come to you here is that how do you know the child is going to pick up the best of the subject? Well, we usually begin the process of our academic intervention beginning from the psychic assessment. From the psychic assessment, we usually gather the information, caters to the historical, the background information, the current level of support that the child is getting, what exactly is the child's learning challenge or difficulty, what are the child's strengths, what are the child weaknesses, the basic language that is used at home. These all informations are then processed, filtered, and then we, with a set of psychologists, work upon that, make this individualized education plan. Once the plan is made, we have a detailed discussion with the parents, the caretakers, and all other stakeholders who are responsible for the child's academic growth. And once it is done, we then assign teachers based on the subject we feel that the child is going to really uh, work best with. Since we believe in the holistic development and we always cater with a vision for the child, and therefore uh, we choose a select subject from the international curriculum which can give an academic career to the child. There are certain subjects like numeracy and literacy, which till grade 10 we always feel is an important, crucial aspect of child's learning. We definitely keep that. But then, since we follow the international curriculum, whether it's the GCSEs or whether it's the AQA curriculum or the GED curriculum, so we always have the flexibility to work upon with the level of this numeracy and literacy. That kind of gives us this the flexibility where we can choose, select, and help the child, to build on this learning process. And in addition to it, we definitely choose and select certain subjects where we feel that the child has enough strength, which could be anything based on the STEM subjects or which could be on the humanities line, something which can also have a vocational training, imparting that. For example, design and technology, or we can say about IT as a subject. There are other subjects also, like child development is a subject, but again, in the global context, sometimes our hands are tied. We cannot give certain subjects because they only are given within the UK. It can't be given in the international curriculum. But if the parents have the flexibility, they can definitely, with us, we do short-term education plan like summer courses where the child can visit the UK, and they also can do some short workshops and subjects which can add on to their portfolio. This includes music, dance, dramatics. There are different other vocational training courses, storytelling, something on the creative side. We always believe that each child has a strength, and we definitely keep on tapping those strengths.
Hi, welcome to Linguaphile Skills Hub. My name is Swati Udupi. I am a cognitive behavioral therapist or a CBT therapist. At Linguaphile, we feel CBT is very essential. All the students have at least one session of CBT per week in their timetable. CBT is very important because it can help children understand how thoughts and emotions affect behavior and how changing their thoughts and emotions can help change their behavior and the way they feel. It is a safe and effective therapy that can help kids with a wide range of conditions and concerns. At Linguaphile, we not only do academic interventions but also focus on the overall development of the child, in which CBT plays an important and integral role. We follow the PSHE curriculum from the national curriculum of the UK and then break it and contextualize it to the needs of the students, which is relevant to the region.
Coming back to our discussion on the linguaphile as a solution provider. So, when you say solution provider, you are looking mostly into the academic intervention. So, do you mean here providing services such as occupational therapies and speech therapies, any kind of other behavioral interventions, about the academic management for the child?
So at this point in time, we are looking at the academic management. We are working with a lot of our partners who are in occupational therapists, behavioral therapies, and everything that we're doing. Again, dependent on the different geographical needs where we are expanding gradually, we are looking at partners who are going to be working with us, and then in the future we could actually look at which way we go with.
So, what is your modus operandi? Are you working as a center based resource, just like running another special school, or are you working absolutely online? Just brief us something about more on your faculty side.
So at this point in time, we are doing it completely online, especially with what we've seen with the coronavirus side of things. I think the education sector has gone into a radical shift. One of the challenges that when we started the whole operations we actually had was whether children learning difficulties can they learn online, and we have not only gone and proven that they can learn online, but we have seen the amount of tremendous benefits that they can have doing it online. At some point in the future, we might be opening a few centers. In terms of the faculty and teachers that we've got, so our teachers, especially teachers who've come through from special education needs background. Our chief education officer has got about 20 years worth of special education needs background, and she's taught in various global schools and dealt with international boards and curriculum. So with the variety of teachers, we've got all the way from Argentina into the US, UK, India, as well as in Thailand.
When you are working with these children, so is there any particular class like open from pre-primary to 12, or how do you go about with the college admission? How does a student plan the academic career?
So in terms of the age, they range all the way from young pre-primary all the way to going to finishing of schools and then into going to colleges and university as well.
So are you looking for universities and colleges within the domain of your center or your organization, or it is like it can be anywhere in the world?
The universities can be anywhere in the world. What we enable doing with the children is that they get to learn that they are actually prepared to be able to get into the entrance examinations that's needed for the universities.
So do you collaborate with universities abroad? Because you know that in terms of eligibility, they stand much lower in comparison to the other average students. So how do you manage that?
We are working with a few universities globally who are willing to accept some of students who are going to be studying with us. Yes. So the big thing that we're looking at is, see, education is going to change. It's the way we've known it traditionally to the way it's going to be in the future. When we were in university, we studied a lot of modules and subjects which we never used in the future. If you were to look at where our children are right now, by the time they go in and start their working careers, that's going to be about the next 10 to 15 years. So when that happens, you're going to be looking at the way technology is going to be coming in, you're going to be looking at the way education is going to be changing. So what we are looking at is enabling these children that they can learn differently. They are going to be ready, or what we call match fit, to be able to work with organizations in the future.
So that means you are trying to also look into the aspect of corporate inclusiveness.
Absolutely. Corporate inclusivity is already out there. So what we are working with some of the corporates is that where some of the children who are studying with us, can we already start providing them with some of the first hand work experience that they would be needing.
Most of your teaching is done online. How do you manage the exams for the secondary and the high school?
So the board examinations, the students are going to sit for them. We're going to be working with some of the schools who take private candidates. So the children would be ready for them. The parents won't have to worry about that.
Any plan in future for having your own center in terms of
Absolutely.
the examination?
Absolutely. At some point in the future, dependent on what the coronavirus and everything looks like, we are going to be looking at our own centers based on geographical needs, based on the demographic needs.
Do you have any message for the parents?
I think the biggest thing that we have learned since our journey in Linguaphile is do not give up. That's number one. Okay. So if you've got a child who's got a learning difficulty, remember that the learning difficulty is possibly, the way we're looking at it, is the weakness side of things. But take into account the strengths that a child has, right? Dyslexic, for example, they come up with a lot of strengths when it comes to big picture understanding. It comes with, solving problems in a very different way than somebody else will. If you've got a child who's possibly in the autism spectrum disorder, that child would be analytically extremely well capable. Okay? What we need to do as parents is start looking at, can my child do something differently? What are the strengths that he or she has got? Because the world's changing. Accept the fact the way we've had education in the past over the last 20, 30, 40 years, that's going to change. Thanks to technology, thanks to the way the world's changing, and the way we are going to be working in the future. If we can accept with an open mind how our children are going to learn in the future and whether they need to learn everything or not, that's going to be